Elias Verne had learned a long time ago that the galaxy did not care if you were tired. The warning light on his console blinked red again, slow and stubborn, as if it knew he was pretending not to see it. He sighed, set down his half-finished meal, and wiped grease from his hands onto already ruined pants. Outside the thin walls of his repair station, the stars hung cold and quiet, stretched across empty space like they had nowhere else to be. The distress signal was weak, old, damaged. Most people ignored signals like that. They were usually traps or wrecks that cost more to fix than they were worth. Elias didn't have the luxury of being picky. He lived at the edge of mapped space, repairing ships for traders who didn't want to pay port fees and salvaging wrecks no one else bothered with. If something flew or used to fly, he could fix it. He powered up his shuttle and followed the signal. The ship appeared slowly out of the dark, rotating slightly, its surface scratched and burned. It was not human-made. Elias could tell that instantly. The hull curved in smooth, flowing lines, like it had grown that way instead of being built. Faint lights flickered along its sides, unstable but still alive. "Well," Elias muttered, leaning closer to the viewport, "you're not scrap." The ship drifted, powerless, its engines silent. He matched speed and guided his shuttle alongside it, careful not to damage what was already broken. Up close, the damage was worse than he thought. A long tear ran along the side, sealed badly with melted plating. Something had hit it hard, very hard. Elias docked manually. No auto systems, just his hands, his eyes, and years of experience. Inside, the alien ship felt quiet. Not empty exactly, more like holding its breath. The air was breathable, though thinner than Earth standard. Elias kept his helmet on anyway and moved carefully down the narrow passage. The walls glowed faintly, responding to his presence. Technology he did not fully understand, but that was fine. He didn't need to understand everything. He just needed to listen to what was broken. He found the pilot in the central chamber. She was slumped against a console, unmoving. Elias froze for a moment. Dead ships were one thing, dead people were another. He approached slowly. She was tall, taller than him even sitting down. Her skin was a soft blue-gray, marked with faint silver lines that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Her face was humanoid but sharper, more defined, with large dark eyes closed in pain. She wore a fitted suit that had torn at the shoulder, dark fluid dried along the edge. Alive. Elias exhaled the breath he didn't know he was holding. "Okay," he said quietly, as if loud words might scare life away. "Let's get you through today." He worked carefully. He didn't touch her more than necessary. He sealed the wound with a medical patch from his kit, adjusted the ship's life support manually, and rerouted power from systems that clearly didn't matter anymore. The ship resisted him at first, systems locking him out, but he found ways around it. He always did. Hours passed. When the ship stabilized, Elias finally sat back, exhausted. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes for just a moment. He didn't notice when she woke up. Celine became aware of pain first, then sound, then presence. Her eyes opened sharply. The first thing she saw was a stranger. He was smaller than her, softer, clearly not built for dominance or combat. His movements were slow, careful, deliberate. He sat on the floor beside her console, tools scattered around him, his attention focused not on her, but on a damaged power relay above them. He was fixing her ship. Her instincts screamed danger, unknown species, unknown intent. She tried to move, but her body refused. The injury burned, but it was sealed cleanly. She studied him through half-closed eyes. He hummed quietly while he worked, unaware he was being watched. His hands moved with confidence, not force. When a panel refused to open, he didn't strike it. He waited, adjusted. Tried again from another angle, persistence without aggression. That was unusual. Finally, he noticed her watching him. "Oh," he said, startled but calm. "Hey, you're awake, that's good." He raised his hands slightly, palms open. "I'm Elias. I'm not here to hurt you." Your ship was dying, so were you. He waited. Seelan did not answer. Her species did not waste words in moments like this. Instead, she observed, listened, measured. He brought her water, adjusting the mixture until her body accepted it. He spoke while he worked, explaining what he was doing even though he did not know if she understood. He did not ask for gratitude. He did not ask for anything at all. Hours turned into cycles. Elias repaired systems he had never seen before, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, always trying again. When something overloaded, he redirected it instead of forcing it. When the ship rejected his input, he worked around it, coaxing function instead of demanding it. To Seelan, this was not weakness. This was strength of a different kind. On her world, worth was proven by dominance, by force, by visible power. But here was a being who stood against failure again and again without raising his voice, without showing fear, without quitting. He slept beside the engine room when exhaustion finally won, his back against warm metal, tools still in his hands. Seelan watched him. Her people believed bonds were formed through action, not ceremony, through proof, not words, and proof she had seen. When she could finally stand, she moved quietly through her ship, testing systems. Much was damaged, but it lived. Because of him. When he woke and saw her standing on her own, his face lit up in a way she did not fully understand. "That's really good," he said, relief heavy in his voice. "You scared me for a while there." "You did not leave," she said slowly, her voice rough but clear. He blinked. "No, of course I didn't. Others would have," he shrugged. "Maybe I don't like giving up." That answer stayed with her. When the last engine came online and the ship hummed steady and strong again, Seelan knew it was time to leave. Her people would come. They would ask questions. They would judge. And she had already chosen. She approached Elias and placed a small marking device on his wrist. He flinched slightly but did not pull away. "What was that?" he asked. She tilted her head, studying him. "A claim," she said. He laughed nervously. "I think something got lost in translation." "Nothing was lost," she replied. Before he could ask more, alarms echoed through the ship, long-range signals approaching. Not hostile, not friendly either. Seelan looked toward the stars beyond the hull. "My people are coming," she said, "and now so is your future." Elias stared at her wrist, then at the ship he had brought back from death, then out into the endless dark. He had only repaired her ship. He had no idea what he had just fixed his way into. Elias did not sleep that night. The marking on his wrist did not hurt, but it felt warm, like it was listening to him. He had tried to wipe it off. It did not move. He had tried to scan it. His tools could not read it. Seelan watched him with calm interest, as if this was all very normal. "It's temporary, right?" Elias asked for the third time. Seelan considered the question. "It is honest," she said. "That doesn't answer anything." She tilted her head slightly. "It answers what matters." Elias rubbed his face and laughed quietly. "Great, of course it does." Outside the station, distant lights appeared. Not stars, ships. They came in a slow formation, controlled and precise, not aggressive but heavy with authority. Elias counted at least 6 large vessels, each one larger than his entire repair station. Their hulls were the same flowing design as Seelan's ship, but marked with symbols that pulsed with a deeper glow. His stomach tightened. "They look serious," he said. "They are," Seelan replied. "They will ask why I was weak. They will ask who you are." "And what do I say?" She looked at him. "Say what you did." Before he could respond, the station received a docking request. Not a request, really, more like a statement. Elias granted it. There was no point pretending he had a choice. The air in the station changed as the first delegation arrived. 3 figures stepped inside, tall and broad-shouldered, their presence filling the space. Their eyes scanned everything at once, the walls, the tools, the human standing near the engine console. Their attention stopped on Elias. He felt like an insect under glass. Seelan stepped forward. "She is alive," said the one in the center, their voice deep and layered. "Explain." "I repaired her ship," Elias said simply. "She was hurt. The systems were failing. I fixed what I could. The aliens looked at him again, slower this time. With no claim of reward, another asked. Elias shrugged. Didn't ask for one. A faint ripple moved through them, confusion, maybe disbelief. Their gaze shifted to his wrist. Silence fell. That mark, the central figure said. Who placed it? Seelan answered before Elias could. I did. The air felt heavier. That is not a decision made lightly, the figure said. I made it, Seelan replied. It stands. Elias opened his mouth, closed it, decided this was not the moment. The aliens spoke among themselves in a language Elias could not understand. The tones were sharp, clipped, judgmental. Finally, the leader turned back to him. You are unaugmented, it said. Unarmed, you hold no rank. True, Elias said. You did not fight. No. And yet you preserved one of ours and restored a ship beyond its expected survival window. I just didn't quit, Elias said. That answer seemed to unsettle them. They demanded to see the repairs. Elias led them through the ship and station, explaining in simple terms what he had done. He showed them rerouted power lines, patched hull fractures, improvised stabilizers built from scrap. Nothing elegant, nothing impressive by military standards, but it worked. One of the aliens touched a sealed conduit, its glow steady and strong. This should have failed, it said. Yeah, Elias replied. It tried to. They tested the engines, the life support, the navigation core, everything held. By the time they returned to the central chamber, their posture had changed. Not friendly, but cautious. Still, tradition demanded judgment. The claim cannot be accepted without trial, the leader said. He must prove worth. Elias frowned. Worth for what exactly? For standing beside one of our kind. Seelan met his eyes. These trials are not made for you. Figures, Elias muttered. The first trial was physical. They led him to a training chamber aboard one of their ships. The room was wide and open, its floor alive with shifting patterns. An opponent stepped forward, taller, stronger, clearly trained for combat. Elias lasted 12 seconds. He was not injured, but he was on the floor, breathless, staring up at the ceiling. I think that went about how we expected, he said. Murmurs spread through the observers. The second trial was dominance-based, a test of will. Pressure fields closed in, forcing him to kneel. Elias did kneel. Then he adjusted the field emitter with a loose cable he had noticed earlier. The pressure vanished. The observers stiffened. That was not the intent of the trial, one said sharply. You left a flaw, Elias replied. I fixed it. The third trial was meant to break him. They placed him in a failing engine room and ordered him to stabilize it without assistance. The reactor was alien, complex, and unstable. Alarms screamed. Energy levels spiked. Elias ignored the watchers. He listened to the machine. He felt the vibration through the floor, the uneven rhythm that told him where the problem was. He bypassed protocols, vented pressure, rerouted coolant using materials that were never meant for that purpose. The reactor stabilized. Silence followed. Several of the aliens stared at him in something close to disbelief. He was not meant to succeed, one whispered. Seelan stood tall. He succeeded because he does not obey fear, she said. Only reality. The council withdrew to decide. Elias sat on the floor, exhausted, hands shaking slightly. Seelan knelt beside him. You should not have been able to do that, she said. He smiled weakly. Story of my life. After a long wait, the council returned. The claim stands, the leader announced. But it changes nothing else. He holds no authority, no protection beyond this bond. That's fine, Elias said quickly. I don't want authority. Seelan looked at him, curious. Why not? Because I like fixing things, he said, not owning them. Something in her expression softened. The alien ships departed soon after, leaving Seelan's vessel docked with the station. The galaxy felt quiet again, but different now. Watched. Elias returned to his workbench, trying to pretend his life had not just shifted sideways. Seelan observed him as he worked. "You do not fear what comes next," she said. "I do," Elias replied. "I just don't let it stop me." She considered that. Far away, beyond the edge of the system, other eyes were watching too, not with curiosity, but with hunger. The signal from Sealand's damaged ship had been heard by more than one listener, and not all of them came to judge. The days after the council left felt heavier than the days before. Elias noticed it first in the silence. Space had always been quiet, but now it felt like something was listening. His scanners showed nothing unusual, but he checked them more often anyway. Old habits. When you lived on the edge of nowhere, you learned to trust your instincts as much as your tools. Sealand stayed. That alone changed everything. She helped where she could, though her idea of help was different from his. She did not know human tools well, but she learned quickly. She watched how Elias worked, how he tested a system twice even when it looked stable, how he muttered to himself when something refused to cooperate. Sometimes she asked questions. Sometimes she just observed in silence. The mark on Elias' wrist remained. It glowed faintly when she was close. Elias tried not to think about what it meant. One cycle, while Elias was repairing a cargo hauler's broken thruster, a new signal appeared on his long-range scanner. This one was clean, sharp, and very intentional. Incoming ship. Human design, Elias frowned. "That's odd." "Why?" Sealand asked. "No one comes out here unless they're lost, desperate, or hiding," he said. "That signal is none of those." The ship arrived carefully, slowing well before reaching the station. It was a small patrol craft, lightly armed but official. When it docked, two humans stepped out wearing neutral sector authority uniforms. They looked around the station, then at Sealand. Their hands moved closer to their weapons. Elias stepped forward without thinking. "Easy." "She's with me." One of the officers raised an eyebrow. "With you?" "Yes," Elias said. "And before you ask, no, she's not a threat." Sealand watched the exchange closely. She did not move. The officers exchanged a glance. "We picked up alien fleet activity in this sector," the taller one said. "That's not normal, neither is this." He gestured toward Sealand. Elias sighed. "Nothing about my life is normal." They talked inside the station. Elias explained everything, finding the ship, repairing it, the council, the trials. He left out very little. Lying never helped in the long run. When he finished, the officers were quiet. "That bond mark," one said slowly. "You know what humans will think when they see it." "Yeah," Elias replied. "I have a rough idea." "It could make you a target," the officer continued. "Or worse, a political problem." Sealand spoke then. "He did not seek this. I did." The officers looked startled by her calm, clear human speech. "That may not matter," the taller one said. Elias leaned back in his chair. "It never does." The patrol left after filing their report. They did not threaten. They did not promise help either. When they were gone, Elias stared at the closed airlock for a long moment. "So," he said, "now humans are nervous, aliens are watching, and I still have 3 engines to fix." "You are unsettled," Sealand observed. "Welcome to humanity," Elias replied. That night, Sealand told him more about her people. They believed survival came from strength, but strength was defined narrowly. Physical power, authority, obedience to structure. Those who did not fit were used or discarded. "When my ship was damaged," she said, "command expected me to die or return broken." "And instead you met me," Elias said. "Yes." She studied him. "You do not fit any measure they use, and yet you endure." Elias smiled faintly. "That's kind of our thing." The warning came without sound. No alarms, no signals, just a sudden absence. The stars outside the viewport dimmed slightly, like someone had drawn a thin curtain across space. Sealand stiffened. "Something is wrong," she said. Elias was already at the console. His scanners showed distortion, wide, spreading, artificial. "Someone just arrived without announcing themselves," he said quietly. The first shot did not hit the station. It erased a drifting rock nearby. Elias swallowed. "Okay, that's new." 3 ships emerged from the distortion. Angular, dark. Nothing like Sealand's people or human designs. Their hulls absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Sealand's voice dropped. They found us. Who? The Convergence, she said. They conquer, they do not negotiate. The ships did not hail. They moved with purpose, spreading out, cutting off escape routes. Elia's station shook as a warning blast struck the outer shield. We can't fight that, Elia said. We are not meant to, Sealand replied. They expect surrender or destruction. Elia stared at the tactical display. Then he smiled. That's a problem for them. He moved fast, pulling up old schematics, rerouting station power, waking systems he had never planned to use again. He launched repair drones, not toward the enemy but toward nearby debris. What are you doing? Sealand asked. Lying, Elia said. The drones scattered, broadcasting false signatures, engine readings, life signs, dozens of them. The Convergence ships paused. Confuse the hunter, Elias muttered. Make it guess. One of the enemy ships fired anyway, hitting a drone cluster. The explosion lit space with useless fury. Elias transmitted a narrow-beam signal, not to the enemy but outward, riding the distortion. What is that? Sealand asked. A message, he said, to anyone listening. And if no one listens, then we improvise harder. The Convergence advanced. Elias triggered the station's emergency detachments, breaking off sections and sending them drifting with powered signatures. Space filled with false targets. The enemy ship split up. Good, Elias said. Now they're thinking. A beam struck the station, cutting deep into the outer hull. Systems failed. Lights went out. Sealand moved without hesitation, sealing breaches, lifting damaged panels with strength Elias did not have. They worked together without speaking. That mattered. The smallest Convergence ship moved in close, preparing to board. Elias opened a channel. This station is worthless, he said calmly. No resources, no authority, you're wasting time. There was a pause. A voice answered. Cold, layered, inhuman. You are human, you adapt, that makes you valuable. Elias' smile faded. I don't think you understand, he replied. Adaptation works both ways. He triggered the last step, the reactor, not an explosion. A controlled overload that dumped energy into space in a chaotic surge. It blinded sensors, twisted readings, and turned the area into a storm of false data. The Convergence ship pulled back too late. Its systems failed first. Sealand watched the enemy vessel drift, dark and powerless. The others retreated. Silence returned. Elias slumped into a chair, breathing hard. Well, he said, that could have gone worse. Sealand looked at him with something new in her eyes, not just respect, understanding. They will return, she said. I know, Elias replied, but next time they'll remember us. Far away, his message reached ears that had not listened before, human ears, and alien ones too. The galaxy had just learned something important. Humans were not strong because they ruled. They were strong because they refused to break. The damage from the attack took 2 full days to understand and 3 more to control. Elias worked until his hands shook. He sealed ruptures, rerouted power, and shut down systems that threatened to fail all at once. The station survived, but barely. Large parts of it were dark and silent now, floating like scars around the main structure. Sealand stayed close, lifting what he could not, standing guard when he slept in short, uneasy bursts. The Convergence did not return right away. That worried Elias more than if they had. They're watching, he said one cycle while recalibrating sensors that refused to align properly. Yes, Sealand replied. They learn before they strike again. Elias nodded. That's what I'm afraid of. The message he had sent finally received replies. Not many, but enough. The first came from a human trade relay 3 systems away. Short, careful. We heard you survived something you shouldn't have. Confirm. Elias answered honestly. The second reply was stranger. It came through Sealand's communication band, encoded and layered with authority markers. Her posture changed the moment she saw it. My people, she said quietly. Good news or bad? Elias asked. She paused. Both. The message was clear. The Convergence had attacked multiple border systems. Sealand's people had lost ships, entire fleets, defeated by force they could not match. Their command structure was paralyzed, unable to act without ritual approval and consensus. They hesitate, Sealand said. While the enemy advances. Elias leaned back against the console. That's not going to work. No, she agreed. It never does. The reply from her council followed quickly after. They wanted Elias, not as a leader, not as an equal, as a tool. They ask you to advise, Sealand said carefully, but only within their structure. You would be protected, fed, given status. And controlled, Elias said. Yes. He looked around his station. The broken walls, the patched systems, the place he had built piece by piece. I don't work well in cages, he said. The human replies grew more frequent. Traders, independent captains, a few military outposts. They all asked the same thing. How did you stop them? Elias answered each one the same way. I didn't stop them, I slowed them down. And I didn't do it with strength. That answer spread. Soon, Sealand's people sent another message. This one was not polite. They demanded she return, immediately, with Elias. She turned to him. If I refuse, I am considered broken. And if you go, Elias asked. They will try to shape you, she said. If you resist, they may discard you. Elias exhaled slowly. Then we don't play their game. He began making plans, not fleets, not weapons, networks. He contacted human captains willing to listen. He shared simple tactics, misdirection, redundancy, retreat paths, how to fight without fighting. Don't stand where they expect, he told them. Don't defend what doesn't matter. Save people, not territory. Some listened. Some did not. Those who did survived longer. The Convergence returned sooner than expected. This time they did not attack the station. They went around it. They struck a nearby human mining colony instead. Elias watched the live feed in silence as the colony's defenses failed in minutes. They're sending a message, Sealand said. Yes, Elias replied. And they think I'll answer it their way. The human military finally responded. A task force arrived, clean and powerful and very confident. Their commander met Elias aboard the station. A tall woman with sharp eyes and a voice used to being obeyed. You caused this, she said without anger, just fact. Elias nodded. I helped reveal it. You improvised against a force you don't understand, she continued. Now it's escalating. It was always escalating, Elias said. We just didn't want to see it. She studied him. You have ideas. I have experience fixing broken things, Elias replied. Big ones, small ones, same rules apply, she crossed her arms. We don't fight wars with repair manuals. No, Elias said. You fight wars with people, and people break when you push them wrong. He showed her his data, the Convergence patterns, their need for control, their reliance on overwhelming force and clear outcomes. They don't adapt well, Elias said. They dominate or they fail. And your plan, she asked. He smiled thinly. Make them fail without realizing why. The plan was risky. Too risky for command structures that liked clean lines and certainty. But the alternative was extinction by inches. Sealand stood beside him during every meeting, her presence silent but powerful. Some humans distrusted her. Some feared her. Elias trusted her completely. When the Convergence struck again, they met resistance that did not make sense. Human ships retreated early, left decoys behind, abandoned stations rigged to overload just enough to disrupt sensors. Civilian ships scattered instead of clustering. Nothing heroic, nothing dramatic, just refusal to play along. The Convergence pushed harder and began to lose ships not to fire but to confusion, to traps, to systems that failed because they were forced beyond safe limits. They adapted slowly, too slowly. Sealand's people watched from their borders stunned. Their doctrine demanded strength through order. What they saw was strength through chaos. Their council sent another message. This time it was different. They asked Elias to speak. Not as an advisor, as an equal voice. Elias refused. "I don't want a seat," he said. "I want you to listen." They did, reluctantly. Seelan spoke to them in ways she never had before. She challenged tradition. She questioned hierarchy. She told them plainly that their strength had become a weakness. Some were furious, some were afraid, but none could deny the evidence. The convergence advance slowed, then stalled, then fractured. They withdrew from systems that offered no clear victory. The galaxy breathed again. The human commander returned to Elia's station after the last major engagement. "You could have had a rank," she said, "a fleet." Elias shook his head. "Someone else can command, I fix," she nodded slowly. "We'll be watching you." "Good," Elias said. "Means you're paying attention." When the fleets finally pulled back, the station felt quiet again, different but familiar. Seelan stood beside Elias, watching stars that no longer felt so distant. "My people will change," she said, "slowly, painfully, but they will." "And humans?" Elias asked. She looked at him. "You already are." The mark on his wrist pulsed once, steady and calm. The galaxy had not been saved, but it had been reminded of something important. Power was not just about force. Sometimes it was about knowing when to bend instead of break. The station drifted in quiet orbit, surrounded by stars that no longer felt empty. Elias stood at the viewport, hands resting on the frame, watching a slow line of ships pass through the system. Human freighters. Alien couriers. A mix that would have been unthinkable not long ago. They did not dock for orders or permission. They docked to trade, to repair, to talk. Life had returned, but it had returned changed. Seelan stood beside him, her presence familiar now, no longer strange or heavy. The mark on Elias' wrist had faded from a bright glow to a soft, steady line, like a promise that did not need to be spoken aloud. "You are quieter today," she said. Elias smiled slightly. "Just thinking. About what comes next." "About what almost didn't," he replied. The convergence had not vanished. No one believed that. They had retreated, yes, but predators learned. They adapted. Elias knew that better than most. Machines always failed where people assumed they would not. But something had changed in the galaxy's balance. Fear no longer stood alone. Messages continued to arrive, though fewer now. Some were requests for help. Others were invitations. Offers of command, of research positions, of political protection. Elias declined them all. He still repaired ships. A battered alien transport docked that cycle, its engines coughing and unstable. The crew watched nervously as Elias moved around it, tapping panels, listening to vibrations, asking simple questions. "You really fixed a war like this?" one of them asked, half joking. Elias shrugged. "Same rules, don't panic, don't force what won't move. Listen to what's broken." They laughed, unsure if he was serious. He was. Seelan observed how others treated him now, with respect, yes, but also with confusion. He did not behave like someone who had changed the fate of systems. He did not claim credit. He did not give speeches. That, she realized, was the point. Her people changed more slowly. At first they denied it. Then they adjusted language. Then they adjusted behavior. Small things. Allowing questions. Allowing flexibility in command. Allowing survival to matter more than pride. Seelan became something new among them. Not a leader by rank. A reference point. When disputes arose, someone would say, "The human would not do it this way." And the room would pause. Humanity's influence spread quietly, not through conquest but through example. Independent captains copied tactics. Civilian stations adopted redundancy and escape-first designs. Even military fleets began to allow initiative where once there had only been obedience. Elias watched it happen from the edge, tools in hand. One cycle a message arrived that made him sit down. It was from the human commander who had first confronted him. "The convergence has returned, smaller force, different strategy. We held them, barely." She included data. Elias studied it carefully. "They learned," he said. "Yes," Seelan replied, "but not enough." He sent back a reply, not orders, suggestions. Let them win small victories, he wrote, stretch their supply lines, make them overconfident, then disappear. The commander answered hours later, "We did not teach this in any academy." Elias smiled. Life settled into a rhythm. The station grew, slowly. New modules were added, workshops, living space. A shared meeting area where humans and aliens sat together, arguing gently over methods and meanings. Seelan helped design systems that blended her people's technology with human practicality. Where once everything had been rigid, now there were backups and backups for the backups. "Your kind expects failure," she said once. "We plan for it," Elias replied. "Big difference." One evening, Seelan asked him a question she had been holding for a long time. "You never asked what the bond truly means to my people," she said. Elias looked at her. "I figured if it mattered, you'd tell me." She studied his face. "It means shared future, shared risk. Choice renewed every cycle," he nodded. "That sounds reasonable." "It is rare," she said. "So are you," Elias replied without thinking. She was silent for a long moment. The galaxy did not change all at once. Some places rejected the new way. Some clung to strength and hierarchy until it failed them, but others remembered the stories. A lone human, a broken ship, a refusal to quit. Years passed. Elias grew older, not dramatically, just enough to feel it in his hands some days. He taught others now, not formally. He let them work beside him, make mistakes, learn patience. Seelan remained unchanged in ways that reminded him of time's uneven reach. But she did not drift away. She stayed. Choice renewed. One day, a young human engineer asked him, "Why didn't you take command when you could?" Elias thought about it. "Because fixing things scales better," he said. "You teach one leader, you get one voice. You teach people how to adapt, you get 1,000 answers." The engineer nodded slowly. Far away, the Convergence watched a galaxy that no longer reacted the way it used to. Prey scattered instead of froze. Targets vanished. Resistance came from unexpected angles. Conquest became expensive. Uncertain. They withdrew again. This time longer. On the day the last hostile signal faded from the sector, Elias and Seelan stood together at the viewport. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "The path you chose." Elias looked at the station, at the ships coming and going, at the people who waved when they saw him, not as a symbol but as a neighbor. "No," he said. "I think this is where I was always meant to be." She placed her hand over the mark on his wrist. It glowed once, then settled. The galaxy would face new threats. It always did. But now it would face them differently. Not waiting for permission. Not waiting for heroes. Just people, standing back up, picking up tools, refusing to let broken things stay broken. And that, more than any weapon or fleet, was what truly scared the darkness.